Chances that I missed, some I held, some slipped away. One street over where my memories exist, I wondered what would change, I really couldn't say. In this life there's nothing certain, except the curtain that rises to the stage. Silly games of second guessing, I just forget the lessons that I couldn't learn. Because one street over there's a life I could have known that would have kept me from the one I had today.
Good morning. This is I'm your John Harbaugh. We were out actually wandering around last night, and it got a little cool at night. I mean, but last night even, but I mean, I think the high tomorrow is getting close to 100. It's gonna be hot, my goodness. But and I can remember, it's a few years ago, about 5 years ago, September was one of the hottest months we've ever had, and so just hang on. Fall's coming. We're not there yet. Of course, Labor Day weekend next weekend, and I'm not planning on being here Labor Day. Now, Lee Marie may decide she wants to do a show, but I'm going to take Labor Day off, and try to get some things done. Just trying to kind of catch up as we're back in school already, and it's just crazy. But we're getting a lot of things done, having a great school year, and it's going so fast. I mean, we're right on top. If you're in Robertson County Schools, I mean, we're getting really close to doing our progress reports that we do halfway through the 9 weeks. They're either this Wednesday or next Wednesday. I forget when they'll come out, but that'll be coming up. So it's just zipping, man. It is just going so fast. It seems like ever since I come on in here, Senator Roberts, ever since I started teaching school, it seems like it just goes so stinking fast. Time does. You're fine. You're fine. I came in here on 2 wheels too. I've got to do better. And surprisingly, I signed on time, but not because I was on time. Because my husband, he just gets so disgusted with me. Because I'm just one of those people that I just kind of run by the seat of my pants all the time. And, I struggle with it. But hi, Senator.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm good.
But I do have to say thank you to my husband for helping me get out of the house. He's just like, you just got to do better, LaVern. You got to do better. But
he didn't stay in bed and stay out of the way.
Oh, if he did, I would be in trouble because he helps get me out of the door every morning. He is really organized. Are you an organized person?
That depends on who you ask.
I'm terrible. I'm not.
Depends on what it's about. Some things I'm very organized, some things I'm not.
That's true. With me, there are some things, if I have to be, and that's what my husband, he's like, well, you have to be in this, LaVern. Come on. And so, but I'm just kind of, and I keep recalling that Phil Valentine was the same way. Phil would come in at the last minute. They would be playing the sounder for his show, and he'd be sitting down. Drove the bosses nuts. And but he was the same way. And it's people who are in the arts. We tend to, and this is part of the arts and entertainment. You just tend to have all these things going on, all the time, and you just do a little bit of everything. And so we're scattered. So how you doing?
I'm good, and I've decided I'm hearing myself from somewhere. What am I hearing myself from? Yeah,
I don't know.
You'll hear it if you take your headphones off. So I have been. Came to the point where there you go, maybe where I figured out I couldn't multitask. So
I have to.
I think women can.
Yeah,
I'm not sure that men can.
Yeah, I get
but
that.
men think they can.
Yeah, okay.
And that leads to trouble.
Well, I've gone through.
Like, honey, are you really listening to me? Yes, I'm listening to you.
Sure I am. Yeah,
but no, I can't drive and listen at the same time, apparently.
Well, it's so funny because there was I can't think of the guy's name, but there was a marriage conference that we were a part of, and the guy talks about the guys going to their nothing box. Women never have a nothing box. Guys will just go shut down. And but
what do you think about? Nothing.
Exactly.
What's on your mind? Nothing.
Nothing. I'm in my nothing box, and so anyway.
I don't know that I have one of those, but
I kind of get that. So. Well, if you've got a lot of things going on, plus with you being in government, I don't know if you can ever have a nothing box because there's something all the time, and you're in a position. What is the position you hold that you have to do all the things? Because you have it's the chairman
of government operations, so it's a year-round job. Yeah.
That's crazy. Do you get
So-
paid more for that?
No, we don't. It's
That's
I mean,
insane. I mean, you would think with that, because speakers gets more money, right?
yeah, full-time job, part-time pay, and
You should get more money for that.
you know, the
I
easiest
would
way.
think, but anyway, because y'all don't get paid very
Yeah.
much.
So the easiest way to talk somebody out of running against you
Yeah.
is to tell them how much you get paid, because it's
Yeah.
not very much,
Nope.
and how much you have to work,
Yep.
because it's
Constant.
pretty much more than a full-time job.
Anywhere you go,
And-
people are in your face.
right.
You know, wanting.
And you can't, and you really can't do anything else. And it's, I mean, people try to, but you're going to fail at something. You're
Right.
either going to struggle to do your other job well, or you're going to struggle to do this well. And but you can't do both. And that's why I think a lot of people that do it probably are retired
Right.
and or independently wealthy.
Yeah.
And I'm not afflicted with either retirement or independent wealth, so
There you
it's
go.
it's definitely it's crazy sometimes.
Well, and as people ask me all the time if I'm going to get back in, and I said no. I think I try to figure out why I ran, and I very clearly felt led to do
Right,
it.
right.
And I think it was just God getting it out of my system, going,
Well,
this is
maybe,
not what I
yeah.
called you to, but you know, but and then it opened the doors to this
Yeah.
radio, and then it opened the doors to the relationship with Dr. Chris Causey, that opened the doors to teaching, not just for me, but for my husband. As I see the orchestration of how
Right.
my life, it's
Wasn't about
exactly-
winning, was it?
No,
it was
not
about,
at all. It was about-
well, I mean, a lot of it is self-discovery. I mean, God
I think it
puts
was.
things
Yeah,
in our lives for us to kind of figure out not only who He is, but who we are.
right.
And, you know, and I've said this before, but I say to my kids all the time, the most important prayer that you can pray is, God, show me your will.
Yeah.
You know, show me how I fit into it.
Yeah.
And it's so easy for us to want to pray that God blesses our plans.
Do this.
Yeah, the things
You
that we
bless
figured
this?
out.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and the better prayer is to say, you know, just reveal to me what's going on
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
And sometimes we get into, you know, in my case, I lost my first race because I ran for
Yeah.
Congress too, and then I wound up doing this. And now you can't pay me to go to, I mean, people ask all the time, well, you run for something else. No, why? I mean, go to Washington so we can all yell at each other.
Yeah, that's all they
mean,
do. I mean,
yeah,
it's just
I mean,
ridiculous. Yeah.
It's not, I don't know. I tell you what, for everybody that thinks that Donald Trump is the second coming, you may be disappointed, because it's, you know, he didn't have a lot of luck in his first term draining the proverbial swamp, and they are fully prepared for him this time. So
And that's
I
if
don't,
he even
you know.
wins.
Yeah, if he
Because, I mean,
wins, yeah.
If you look at the polls and stuff, and I mean, I have no idea what's going to happen.
Well,
I really
there's, you know, there's increasing polarization, but the one thing that gets overlooked is the increasing, I'm sick and tired of it, I'm tuned out. I'm not
Yeah.
left, I'm not right, I'm just sick of it.
And I'm just not going to vote.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and so there's so few people who vote as a percentage
Mm-hmm.
that if the left gets their people out or the right gets their people out, they can win an election. But the vast majority of the people are just sick and tired of it,
Yeah.
and they don't like all the squabbling, name calling, everything else. And I'm not directing that at Trump; it's the left does it too. But he does it. He does it on a level, on a trolling level that nobody else does. And I got to give him. I'll have to say it's probably either funny or infuriating, depending on what side you're on. But there's just a lot of fatigue. There's a lot of political fatigue, and I kind of hoped after the assassination attempt, and you know, maybe this is what we'll see. I want to see. You know what I want to see is I want to see Dennis Quaid and Reagan. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I
the
do.
Reagan. Okay, and that's what I want to see. I want to see Ronald Reagan.
Yeah, I
and
do too.
and I think one of my kids asked me the other day, why was Ronald Reagan so great?
Because he was
Where-
presidential.
Where do you start? It's just the
Presidential. I mean,
demeanor of it
just-
all, and the
Man,
ability to use humor with
Yeah, yeah,
diffusing
yeah.
situations or being critical of people,
Yeah.
Doing it with
Tear down that wall.
I mean, it's just
I mean, just, you know.
I mean, even his political enemies would have to laugh at the way he did that. Like you remember the debate where he said, "I won't hold my opponent's youth and inexperience against him," when they were talking about how old he was.
Yes,
and,
it was
and I
awesome.
mean, it just.
And that was the entertainment side of him coming out.
I know, but it was so
You know,
good. I
and,
mean, he just always had the right,
Yeah.
the right answer.
Yeah.
And
I think with Trump, what I wish he would do, and I saw something, he was on with some late night host, something or another, and it's like, have you ever apologized? Well, I'm never wrong. I want to see some humility in him. I want him to apologize for some of the incredibly offensive things he said in the past. I want him to just to go, you know what? I'm a changed man. I know, I feel like the country needs to be, get back on track, fiscally. I think that there's so much that we need to do, but beyond everything, I just want to say redemption's real, and I'm repentant for the horrible things that I have said in the past, because he's said some terrible things, and I just. I mean,
so what you pray for? Yeah. So what you pray
I
for?
want to see humility. I want to see him apologize for being a womanizer. Okay, I mean truly, and for being somebody that has said some of the things he did when he was on Howard Stern's shock radio. You know what I mean. And I'm not even going to repeat some of this stuff because it's just offensive.
So here's what you do: you pray for a road to Damascus experience for him.
Well,
I mean, that's
getting
what
shot
I mean.
should be one.
I thought it would be one,
Come
and
on.
and maybe it's just a little bit of a delayed reaction, but
Yeah.
I think that the thing that I literally have prayed for is just that come to Jesus moment.
Yes.
Because the one thing that I believe to be true is when you have someone who has so much confidence and is so outspoken, if they ever get sorted out, who God is and their relationship with God. And Jesus in his final words in Matthew were, all authority has been given to me in heaven and earth, right? So
Right.
when you recognize Jesus as your Lord, your Savior, your King, and that your life is in service, then it manifests itself in the ways that you're talking about. You have this humility about who you are compared to who God is. And when you have a near-death experience, and I've had one,
Yes,
and
you have.
it does change you, but it can change you for the better. It can change you for the worst, and I think it's just so important for us to really. People don't wrestle. Society, I should say, not people, but we just don't wrestle with who God is now, because we've done. The great disservice of the 1940s, 50s, and 60s is pushing God out, by liberals and progressive, pushing God out of public life. And that was, there's a lot of useful idiots out there that don't realize they were being used by the socialist and the communist. And that's just a fact. And even today, there are people that have a hard time recognizing what happened historically. But, communism was alive and well in the United States in the 1950s and 60s, and you see that, evidence of that on college campuses. You still see it today.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, how can a presidential candidate get up and talk about price controls?
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the closest thing. First of all, we have no policy statements to speak of from this candidate. That's the closest thing to a policy statement that you got. And what is it?
Talking about Kamala.
Yeah, and straight out of communism, and let's just take over the food supply and let's just set price controls. The only way you can set price controls is take over the.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to just think this thing through for a moment. And everybody who says, "Yeah, I'm tired of going to the grocery store and seeing these high prices," that's not your answer.
No.
That's not your answer. But that's an easy answer to pitch to people, and that's how communism, so socialism or communism, Marxism, that's how they succeed.
Venezuela.
Is because, people get upset about stuff.
Venezuela.
It's a game of heroes, villains, and victims.
Yeah.
It's a classic game. People feel victimized by something. So someone comes along, makes someone else the villain, and makes themselves the hero. And it gets played all the time in politics, and people fall for it over and over and over again. And they think that the solution is the solution when it's not. It's just going to make things worse. And how did we get to the point where people don't think through this stuff? I don't know. But you can't vote for someone based on a slogan, based on feelings, based on looks, based on anything else. I mean, you've got to sit here and think about who you want to govern and what the policies are going to be. And I just, it's so disappointing that, I see friends of mine just, I go out and I ride my bike and I see signs, political signs, and I just think, how can you vote for people who support these socialist, Marxist, whatever policies, support people who want to divide us at every turn?
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, who's talking about racism all the time? Well, when we called them out on that, what do? They start saying, well, you're a racist if you're not talking about racism.
It's
How do you
I
win?
know,
I mean,
know.
because nobody wants to be intellectually honest. What they want to do is they want to win because it's all about power. So why do I not want to go to Washington?
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, because here, when you serve on a state level, you can actually do things that make a difference in people's lives. But you know what impedes that? Is all the meddling from Washington, D.C. Take, for example, if you're a teacher and you recoil at the notion that a Republican is out there saying we need to abolish the U.S. Department of Education, why would you do that? Why wouldn't you go, please, Lord, let them get rid of the U.S. Department of Education so that we can just take one layer of micromanagement away from what we do every day, so we can do what? So we can teach kids as we know how to do it. And oh, by the way, the state doesn't need to step in and fill that void. And I've said this over and over again. If Robertson County wants to have good schools, it's up to Robertson County. It's not up to the state of Tennessee, and it's certainly not up to the United States government.
Everybody's afraid to lose the money, though.
Well, that's the thing. Why are there strings attached to the money? If you're going to make a decision to fund education, look, if I, here's the problem. If I invest in a business, obviously my inclination is to want to have a say-so in how that money is invested. Okay? But you know what? I'm not the person who had the idea. I'm not the person who invented the better mousetrap or whatever. And maybe I've got some wisdom, or maybe I've got some way to contribute. But for the most part, what we need to do, legislators are not investing experts. I know it's a newsflash for people, but how many how many legislators in the state of Tennessee are educators?
I don't know.
Not many. Not many.
I doubt very few.
So why are we
There's many.
telling,
This is how you
Robertson
should do
County
it.
how to run schools?
Right.
And so we sit here as Republicans, we sit here and complain about Washington doing it, and then we turn right around and do it ourselves.
They're like, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and as a teacher, I don't have the answers. I just know what I'm trying to do. and
What you're trying to do
yeah.
is you got 20-some kids in a class,
Yeah.
and you're trying to get to know each one of them individually, and you're trying to figure out what makes a light bulb go off with each one.
Yeah.
But instead, you're filling out forms, you're doing paperwork, you're administering tests, you're doing all this other kind of stuff, and it takes you away from being able to sit down with that child and figure out what's best for them.
And I'll tell you, I have, as a career teacher, because I'm a CTE, career and technical education teacher, as a CTE teacher, I have to do far less of it than the math teachers and the English teachers and the science teachers and the government and all those teachers, all those folks. What they have to deal with is astronomical. And it's my husband and I, we are so thankful to be in the positions we are. We're just loving it. But we know what we're doing is so much easier than what the curriculum that's tested teachers have to go through.
Yeah.
They have so much on them, and it's much more for them. It's a lot for us too, because we have to fill out all the to justify them because it's funded by the state. The CTE program is, and I guess in entirety maybe. But,
the whole argument, if you revert back to the genesis of all this standardized testing, the whole argument is, well, if someone's in North Carolina and they're thinking about moving to Tennessee, they need to be able to see how the schools are doing. Okay, well, I have never met somebody who moved to Robertson County, Davidson County, Williamson County. These are the places I've lived. And plus being a state senator and being all over Tennessee, I have yet to run into anyone who said, well, I went online and I looked at the rating of the schools in Tennessee, and this is why I picked this neighborhood. Now, you will see in Nashville where you'll see people move because they want their kid to go to this elementary school or whatever. I mean, you'll see stuff like that. But the bottom line is we've created what people, and I'm sorry, but this is the cynicism that I've acquired over the years. Somebody's making some money somewhere, and they're the ones who push it. I mean, it's just a general principle in government. The whole testing program makes somebody a pile of cash. Stop and think about it. Do you think all this testing's free? What does the state of Tennessee pay for testing?
I can't even imagine.
Does Robertson County Schools pay for testing? Okay. And am I opposed to testing? No. I mean, let's not go to the extreme here. What I'm opposed to is that one size fits all, U.S. Department of Education, State Department of Education, trying to tell you what you need to do in a classroom. The job here, we hired people to oversee the schools. That's our school board. Get involved, get a good school board. School board hires the director of schools. He's your CEO. Let him run it as he sees fit. And that means let him hire and fire who he needs to hire and fire so that he's got outstanding people in the classroom. Let's also make it so that it's competitive, okay? So let schools succeed and fail. If you've got a school that does really well, let kids go there. I know this people don't like this, but we don't need charter schools if we fix public schools.
True.
Okay? So we're giving charter schools all these breaks, and we won't give them to public, and we won't give them to public schools.
Yeah.
Okay, so how stupid is that? Okay, so I had somebody jump all over me because I wouldn't sign a petition for a charter school. I just don't think that's the solution. Am I opposed to a charter school? No, I'm not. But do I think it's the solution? What I think the solution is, you break the zip code barrier and you give the school systems freedom to do what they need to do. Some schools are going to succeed and some schools are going to fail. And we see here in Robertson County, people want their kids to go to Innovation Academy. All right. So we did a good thing there, in my opinion. And Dr. Bell is doing a great job. And it's still a public school, and they still got to play by all the public school rules. But they've taken a little bit different approach, and it's succeeding. And if you're not constrained by your zip code, I mean, the bottom line is most people are going to go where their zip code is. It's just easier. It's just easier. And there's a whole lot of parents that just want easy. Right? I mean, they're not involved in their kids' education. They're not going to drive their kid across the county because they think that, some school is a better school. But for the kids that want that, let them have it. Especially in a place like Davidson County, where, some schools just need to go away. Yeah. I mean, that's the bottom line. Shelby County, some schools need to close. Yep. And they need to start all over. Anyway, it's there's always money involved. And, who was it? Was it Rush Limbaugh that used to say, follow the money?
Oh,
who was it? Yeah. Well, it's an old saying. It's not anything new.
But Rush was always saying that. We're talking with Senator Kerry Roberts, and it's so funny. He said he might be a couple of minutes late. I was like, that's okay. It takes me a few minutes to say hello, and he and I, we're 25 minutes in, and we pretty much have just said hello.
Hey there.
Isn't that funny? How are your kids doing?
Good.
Everything good?
Yeah, we've got... So, Nora got married last year.
Yeah, I knew.
So for anyone that knows my kids, so Nora served at the depot for quite a while. She dropped out of Harding University during COVID.
Right.
She decided that online classes were not for her, and that was a good decision for her. So she worked at the depot. And, if you annualized her income serving at the depot and the tips she made, she probably made more money on an annual basis than a state senator. So back to the pay thing.
Yeah.
And so she loved working there, loved working for Doug and the crew that's there.
It's a wonderful place.
That's kind of our go-to place. Yeah. We're very blessed to have good local restaurants.
Yes,
and so when we're here, it's like, and I'm not going to name them all, but it's like your obvious three are: do we take them to the Depot, Torino's, or Ichiban? And I would add Catfish House in there, but that's soon to be no more, and which I just hate because we always enjoy going there. But she got married last summer and she had gone back to Harding, and it's kind of funny because you're away from school for a while and then you come back and you break up with your boyfriend and then you find out that somebody else was interested in you all along and you didn't know. And so Jake and Nora got married last summer. They just had their first wedding anniversary on July 29th. And so she started school back up, and he is working at a TV station in Little Rock. So he gets up early in the morning and he's one of the producers on the morning show.
That's cool.
So she, maybe when they get done, they'll move back here. Davis is going to get married on October 19th.
Really?
So he just started his senior year at Tech.
Oh my.
The kid has a free ride because he was pretty much I think he was straight A student at Springfield High School. And
so Davis is a senior year?
Yeah.
Did he go through summer and stuff? Because he's finishing a little bit soon.
No. He's on schedule. No.
Really?
No, yeah.
Oh man,
So,
you're getting old, buddy. That's impossible.
But the thing about it is, he wanted to have he and Kaylin, his high school sweetheart, and
how sweet.
I know they've been together for 5 years, and so they wanted to have a fall wedding. They were talking about getting married, and we just assumed fall of 2025.
Mm-hmm.
And so in the course of the conversation, and maybe that's where they started thinking, but they just realized how far away that was. And she did TCAT, so she did cosmetology. So she's wrapped up with TCAT. And so they just decided to go ahead and do it this fall. And he's got his school load is actually pretty easy his senior year. He's done very well in school, and he's been a good student. And I don't know that anyone listening was one of his teachers, but if we've got any of his former teachers listening, they're all smiling right now because this is Davis. Why do I want to wait to do something? I can just go ahead and do it now and get it over with.
Yeah.
So everything, I don't know that if he ever turned anything in late, I don't know what it would have been, So he was always,
just get it done, get it out of the
and
way.
he would plan things, and he was always ahead of the power curve.
I mean, that's great. Yeah. That's
And
a great
so
trait to have.
it is. And so he and Evan lived together in an apartment in Cookeville. Evan has graduated from Tech. He comes to Springfield a few days a week to help us, and then he goes back and works on some stuff there. But they live together, and it's going to be really interesting. They have an apartment together. So while Davis is finishing his senior year, Kaylin is going to move in with him. We'll see how that goes.
That should be fun.
Well,
that should be fun.
It'll, you know what? They all get along well enough that it'll be probably create some epic stories for later on in life. But Davis will,
he's in engineering, isn't he?
He switched to, it's kind of, I don't know what, it's a GIS major, but what he's interested in is meteorology, and not like being at a TV station. No, what he loves is the study of weather storms, the patterns. So it's like, it'd be like working at National Weather Service.
Okay.
So he will probably go to Mississippi State for his master's, which, believe it or not, Mississippi State is like the school for that. And go figure.
Okay.
And this is where Dr. Oldham was. He was the president of Tennessee Tech. Previously, he was their academic dean there at Mississippi State. So they're all on radar. Davis is on their radar screen, no pun intended. Yeah. So he'll probably wind up there. And
I believe he's a senior.
I know. So he gets married on October 19th. So we're pulling our hair out trying to get.
Are y'all doing it at the place?
Yeah, we are. So
we can update on that in just a second. I just was wondering about the kids because I knew that she was approaching her anniversary. But I had no idea Davis was getting married. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But anyway, talking with Senator Kerry Roberts, and we haven't talked all summer because he's been super busy, and he'll fill you in on that in a minute, and then we'll talk about the legislative session. But let's talk right now about this. This is Veterans Motorplex at the Rim, they're calling it now. And they put the Rim back in the title because it's historic, guys. This is the old Highland Rim Speedway. If you want to follow them, you do it on social media with Highland Rim Speedway. I've said it many times. They kept that social media presence because they had 19,000 followers. They want to make sure and get that out there because the only way to get anything on social media now is you got to be following somebody to even have any hope of getting information the way Facebook works. You know how you are, Facebook. But anyway, so if you follow them at Highland Rim Speedway, that way you'll know if there's a rain delay, something like that going on. Of course, we could use a little rain, but the rain, of course, will prevent them from racing. But typically, Gates are going to open at 4:15 on Saturday. I think the racing starts about 7 o'clock, and it is a good time. A $40 ticket will get you get your whole family in. You can have up to 6 kids, 2 adults for a $40 ticket price. Individual adults 15. They got special prices about 12 for students and for seniors. And under 5, I think is free. But nonetheless, it is a great time. Fun family event to go out. It's one of the best kept secrets in Robertson County. People forget about. We got a great racetrack. We've got this beautiful 1/4-mile high banked asphalt bull ring. Fun for the whole family. It's located in the heart of Greenbrier, 6801 Kelly Willis Road in Greenbrier. And you can call Jerry at 615-430-3135, 615-430-3135. They race through October. When you get out there, go as soon as you can. You're going to love it. And be sure and let them know that U-Turn sent you. And talking with my friend, Senator Kerry Roberts. And I know people are curious about what you've been doing on the place. You want to update on that?
I really want to spend time talking about there's some stuff I want to cover here before we
run out of time.
Go
for it.
So several things. First of all, let me start with this one. I am really tired of people using the term rhino.
Yeah, I got you.
And
look at a name on it.
yeah, and so I've written an article from a website, but I haven't published it yet. And because I want to say this is probably not what kind of brought this to the forefront was President Trump calling Billy and John Lundberg, rhinos, and it really bothered me a lot. First of all, I don't think that President Trump is the one saying that, but I think it's whoever is posting this stuff. But so John Lundberg is a state senator from East Tennessee. And his opponent was Bobby Harshberger, who is Berger, however we say it, which is the son of the congressman there. Mm-hmm. So you had, signs everywhere that just said Harshberger, and she's running for re-election. He's running for, state senate. And he beat John Lundberg in a highly contested primary. I don't know Bobby, haven't met him yet, haven't spoken to him, and I'm sure he's a wonderful guy and a nice guy. But John Lundberg was my friend, and John Lundberg is not a rhino, and I'm tired of that term. Billy is my friend. Billy is the most conservative governor that we've had in, the modern era in Tennessee. And you have all these people on the far right wishing that we had men and women of faith who would be informed by their faith, making the decisions that they make. And so you have somebody that fits that category, and they do something you don't like. You know what the definition of a rhino is?
If you do something that makes me mad.
That's exactly what it is.
Just if you
do
don't
something to make me mad. Okay. Now, who fans the flames of the use of that term?
The special interest groups.
The progressive and the liberals. Okay, in the media. Okay, so let's not, I mentioned earlier about people being useful idiots. Let's not be useful idiots. Mm-hmm. Okay, so somebody forwarded me this quote-unquote rhino report, okay? I meant to go back, but I didn't, and it's not worth wasting my time, to see how many occurrences of a fundraising plea was in that report.
Say that again.
I was going to go back and look at this report that was however many pages it was, and I was going to count up the number of times they asked for money. Okay? So websites call people names, do a report, you download the report, and all it is, click the link to donate money. Do you like what you're reading? Give us money. Do you like what you're reading? Give us money. Do you like what you're reading? And what you're reading is not statistically validated. It's not, quality research. It's somebody picking a handful of bills that they clearly don't understand and calling people names because they didn't vote the way they wanted them to vote. Yeah. How do you call someone who the past 10 years has consistently ranked as not only one of the most conservative state senators in Tennessee, but also in the nation? How do you call him a rhino? Because you're trying to raise money.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're trying to raise money.
Got an agenda.
Yeah, you got an agenda. And the people who fan this are the people who want money, or the media, or the people on the left that love the division.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go back to Reagan. You know, I don't know that he's the one that came up with the 11th commandment, but it's attributed to him, which was what? Don't speak ill of another Republican. If Donald Trump loses in November, there is only one reason, and it's not cheating. It will be because the Republican Party is divided.
Oh, yeah.
It's that simple.
Yeah.
It's that simple. You either coalesce everybody and get them on board, and you have a resounding win that no level of cheating can overcome.
Mm-hmm. And that's what he thought he had last time.
But he didn't.
Yeah.
So you get everybody together on the same team. Let me just ask you a question. If you went over to Larry's, or you went over to Hardee's, and you got away from Republican and Democrat labels, and you looked at who was liberal, who was progressive versus who's conservative, what do you think the percentage of people in this county are who are conservative?
I think it would be high.
Would you think it would be at least 2/3?
I would think, yeah.
I would think so.
Yeah.
In fact, it might even be 75%.
Yeah.
But a stronger percentage of the people on the far left come out and vote than the people on the far right.
In
If
this
you-
county,
Everywhere.
really,
I mean, the left does a lot better job
of getting their people
of
out.
getting their
Yeah.
people out to vote than the right does. So you have a lot of people who are very, very conservative who, let me ask you this. We both grew up in a Church of Christ background.
Right.
Was your church experience growing up that Christians shouldn't be involved in politics?
No.
Okay, well, there's a lot of that, and you're aware of that, right?
Yeah.
There's a whole lot of that.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot of Christians who think,
You
know,
shouldn't touch it. Now, I
render
know-
under Caesar what is Caesar's, render,
I
and we
know
just
there
stay out
is,
of it. Yeah.
But I was never
Yeah.
taught that.
No, well, I was never taught it either, but I mean, I was aware of it, and a lot of people felt that way.
Mm-hmm.
We totally get that vibe when we go to church. It doesn't matter where. I mean, I could be visiting a church, and there are just people that they just feel that way. So my point is that we've gotten into this thing of name calling, and I want everybody. If you use the term rhino, I want to implore you, drop it out of your vocabulary.
Yeah.
Because here's what you're doing. You're taking somebody that you agree with 90+% of the time,
Mm-hmm.
and you're labeling them as if they are your enemy.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not. They're not. And that's why we could lose in November.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Yeah, and it concerns me because and I've kind of after I ran for office and stepped away from the Republican Party, I'm kind of back to where I was prior to my running. I consider myself more independent and more a patriot than anything, and
Yeah.
I don't like either of the parties. But I mean, when you run for office, you got to pick one because you can't possibly.
It's a
do anything.
two-party system,
It's
right?
a two-party system, and that's just the way it works. And most of the time, I agree with the policies of the Republican Party, or it's just the lesser.
It's the lesser of evils. Yeah.
It
No,
really
I mean,
is,
yeah.
because I'm so
Well,
they're the only ones fighting for the.
here's
life
what's
of being
important to do.
born, and that's
Here-
that
yeah.
I'll die on that hill.
Yes, and
But,
it's important to get to the platform of the party. And if you think about how a platform of a party gets originated, generally a lot of effort goes into it. Now, one of the criticisms of this time around is that the Republican lightened up their platform. I'm not opposed to lightening up your platform from a standpoint of crossing some things off the list. That do we really need to spend our time thinking about that? Let's keep the main things the main things. However, it really offended some people that it appeared to lighten up on the life issue and also lighten up on the Second Amendment issue. And
That's not the way to go.
that's, in my opinion, is not. But the antidote for that, the cure for that, is to go look at the other side's platform.
True.
And that's why I say, if you walked into Hardee's, Larry's, wherever, with these two documents, and you said, which one are you? 2/3 to 3/4 of the people in Robertson County would say, I'm this one. Which one is it? Well, that's the Republican one. And that's where they're aligned. But we won't win that election if everybody's sitting here calling each other names. So we got to get away from the name calling, and we got to recognize it comes from two groups: the people who make money off of it, and the people who take joy in seeing the Republicans divided. You know, the media is who keeps that term alive.
Oh, yeah.
If a Republican utters that word, the media amplifies it over and over again, just to keep, you know, taking a hammer and beating that nail. So so that's one thing that I wanted to say, and I want to be sure and say. And I've got an article. I sent it to Janet. I sent it to Diane, you know, and I haven't published it yet. And I'm not trying to call out Trump by it. I mean, well, first of all, I'm not on Donald Trump's radar screen, so I could probably say whatever I wanted to say, and I don't think he would probably care what I think or what I say. But I'm absolutely not trying to pick a fight with him. It's just his use of the term was kind of because I'd already been thinking about it. And then somebody sent me this, you know, Rhino report in Tennessee.
Yeah.
And which I just had to laugh, because all these bills that I voted for, where are they? They're not in this report. And so you pick out the two bills that didn't do squat, and I didn't, you know, make a motion or a second. What
so you're a Rhino.
Do I mean, and another one? Yeah, I mean,
come on.
They're not even bills that I voted against. They were just bills that there's such a misunderstanding of the way the process works. If a sponsor never works a bill, what does that tell you? Okay, if you never ask you ran for office, if you didn't ask anybody to vote for you, what are you really saying?
I'm just here for the novelty of it.
I don't care what you do. If a sponsor never the sponsor owns the bill, and the retort to that is, well, why didn't you fix it? Because it's not my bill.
Yeah.
It's not my bill. It's their bill. I don't have a right to fix it. Do you realize if someone says, well, you could amend their bill? Yeah, you can amend a bill. You can try to amend a bill. And if you succeed, you know what the sponsor of that bill can do? They can say, no, thanks. I'm not running the bill anymore. I had
you waste your time.
I had a bill that cleaned up the whole expungement thing in Tennessee, because we piecemealed fixing it over the years, and it just needed to be rewritten and cleaned up. It was confusing.
Right.
And so I just had a bill. It was a housekeeping bill, really. So it went through the House, it went through the Senate, and when it got on the House floor, somebody tried to amend it that was going to change the underlying who can get an expungement and who can't. And so I went to the House sponsor and I said, what's going on here? And they said, well, this person is bound and determined to do this. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. And so they tried to do it in the House. Well, you can't pass a bill if they're not identical, right?
Right.
So they passed their version of it. You know what I did with my version of it? I told the chief clerk, we call it general subcommittee. That's where bills go to die. I said, park it there. And he goes, why? I said, because they messed with it in the House and I don't like what they did. And so that's what I did. And I just held firm. So the guy in the House that did that, I was on the Senate floor one day. I'm just reading whatever I'm reading, and someone taps me on the shoulder, and I look over, and he's here. He goes, you serious? He said, you just going to kill this bill? And I said, yeah, I don't like what you're doing to it. He goes, you're really going to kill this bill? And I said, yeah, I don't like what you did to it. And he tried to convince me otherwise. And I said, no, period. No, it can stay there and it'll die. And so he goes, I can't believe you're doing this to me. And I said, well, I can't believe you didn't go through the whole process. And he said, well, what he wanted to do would not have made it through the Senate Judiciary Committee, which was true.
Yeah.
And I said, exactly. And I'm on the Judiciary Committee. And I said, I'm not going to do that to my committee. It's all right. You just going to make me walk out here with my tail between my legs? And I said, yeah. And I mean, I love the guy. He's a great guy, and he's a friend. But it's like I was not going to cave on that. That's why. Because I'm the sponsor of that bill, and I can do that. So if somebody messes with my bill, I have the right to just park it, and we're done. And that's what people don't understand. Someone says, why didn't you fix that bill? It's not my bill. It's somebody else's bill. They didn't want to fix it. They didn't seem to care. They never came to me and said, hey, I'm going to be presenting this bill on the last day of Judiciary Committee when you have 100 other things on the calendar. Would you give it a second? Would you vote for it? Would you whatever? It never happened. And they don't understand the way that stuff works. And but you know what? They don't want to understand. What they want to do is they want to raise money. So,
Look what I did.
Be wary.
That's all it is.
Be wary of reports that are full of fundraising, please, number one. And be wary of who is trying to stir the pot and why.
Yeah.
And follow the money. You generally have an answer to your question. But just keep this in mind. If we lose in November, the reason we lost is because a house divided against itself. What did Jesus say? A house divided against itself can't stand.
Won't stand.
It won't. And that's it. It's that simple.
Mm-hmm.
How much time do we have?
Okay. We've got about 15 minutes.
Okay, I've got some highlights that
let me do my
that
last
we want to
break,
talk about
and
too.
then it'll be all yours. And I'll just kind of zip back around. That's why I wish that that former President Trump would just step up and say, I'm a changed man. And I wish he would just appeal to the people that just can't get past some of the things he said in the past. And I think if there was a true redemption, just that humbling before people, I think people could change their mind.
There's a lot I love about him.
There's some that just won't because he just won't apologize. And it's like, dude, you've got some things you need to apologize for.
Well, there's a lot I love about him, and that would just make me love him even more. Because there are so many good things that he brings to the table.
Yes. I mean, I just wish he would just show a little bit of humility. I really do. I wish.
Well, but I'm going to say, in humility myself, there's things that people love about me and things that they wish that I would change. Yeah, but I think we're all in that situation.
But you do give God the glory, and you do follow Christ. That's something Deborah just put up there. Thank you for bringing Christ into the office, and you do. And you can't say that you do and not do it. You do it. You walk the walk and talk the talk. And so he can say he's a person of faith and all this kind of stuff. But are you? Show us.
Well, I don't always walk the walk, and I don't always talk the talk. But you know what? But we have the saving blood of Jesus, and that's a thing. And to go back every day, just ask God, show me what I need to do here. How do I fit? How do I fit in your story? Yeah. And give me the strength to do it.
Amen. Amen. Got to talk about our sponsors. I get to talk about our sponsors. Barry and Rebecca Richards with Exit Prime Realty. If you missed it, Barry was in last week. It was so funny. We had the safety day up at Kilgore, and I kept saying, I know they'll be there, but I didn't have confirmation. And the minute he came in, he said, yeah, we're going to be there, because it was in Cross Plains. It was up at Kilgore. If anything that happens in that area, you're going to see their presence, because that's their home. They've been there for nearly 30 years. They're Cross Plainians. But so they specialize in Robertson County properties, but they also buy and sell in the surrounding counties and across the state line in Kentucky, because guess what? They grew up in Kentucky just like me. And so they've got just a little bit of exposure in all these different things. They both worked in Nashville for a time. Barry came out of a media marketing background. He was a vice president of a media marketing company for 17 years, guys, and for nearly 17 years. And that he brings that expertise to the real estate table. If you've got things that need to sell and you want to present it in the best light, he can do it for you. They are just wonderful friends of mine, wonderful friends of this program, and they are part of the Exit team. Exit Prime Realty, they opened up a new branch in the Exit tree with his brokerage office here in Springfield. He's a broker, and Rebecca's an agent out in White House. They combine those two offices to bring you Exit Prime Realty. Are you interested in being in real estate? They're two that are great. They both came out of different careers, came into real estate, and they can absolutely mentor you and help you understand the ins and outs of all of that. So reach out to them today. You can go to sellwithbecky.com, sellwithbecky.com, buy, B-U-Y, robertscounty.com, or you can just give Becky a call, 615-504-7425, 615-504-7425. And as always, please let them know.
We did a lot of things. There are a lot of bills that are that become effective on July 1st every year. And I actually was going to run through some things that went through, and I realized that I brought the wrong binder here. But let me just give you some highlights of what we did legislatively, because so much stuff happens. So just to refresh everybody's memory, we're in session from January to the end of April. Mm-hmm. And during that time, we probably pass 500 some bills. I don't know what the exact number is. There are about 1,500 bills that get filed every year, and probably about 500 actually get considered and passed. And a lot of them are kind of housekeeping bills, but there are some significant ones. So some of the stuff that we did with respect to criminal justice and safety, we strengthened the restrictions for issuing bail to keep violent criminals off the streets. We've seen this in the headlines where somebody got arrested for something, then they got released, and then they committed a heinous crime. And we've dealt with a couple of murders where people were out on bail and they murdered someone, and it just breaks people's heart, obviously. Jillian's Law. This was a well-known case where somebody who was mentally incompetent was released, and so we've got involuntary commitment for criminal defendants who are found mentally incompetent to stand trial. Now, I want to say something about both these things, and then we increase the penalty for three things: for child rape to death or life without parole. There are things that we do that principally are very, very good, but we get to arguing over the details, and sometimes we don't like the details. And I'm going to tell you that probably all three of these things will get tweaked in the future. We get some criticism even from far left or far right on some of these bills because of the details, and child rape is a great example of this. I would hope that anyone who's sitting here listening would agree that if an adult rapes a child, that adult deserves to die. I mean, that's what I believe.
Me too.
And but I didn't vote for this bill.
Why not?
What? You just said what? You just sat here and said that you agree that if somebody rapes a child, because here's why. You got to know what the definition of rape is, and you have to know how that conviction can occur. So here's a question. Do you want to put someone to death on the testimony of a child that believes in Santa Claus? You could do that under the way the law is written. So here's what it goes back to. Here's kind of where all this started. The Kennedy case in Louisiana. Kennedy violently raped an 8-year-old stepchild. I mean, Kennedy deserved to die, period. Kennedy deserved to die. The Supreme Court came along and said, no, you can't put someone to death when you've not. I'm going to way oversimplify with apologies to the attorneys who might be listening. You can't put someone to death when it's not a capital offense. So generally speaking, the principle is the state can only put someone to death when they've killed someone, when there's a body, right? There's a clear victim. Well, in the case of Kennedy, there was a clear victim, because here's a child who, the testimony revealed that you've got this, physicians who say, we've just never seen so much damage.
Jeez.
Okay. So Kennedy deserved to die, and the Supreme Court blew it, in my opinion. And it was a liberal Supreme Court when this was done in 1978. And they shouldn't have done that. So part of the strategy for overturning Kennedy is to get enough states to enact the death penalty for child rape. And given the current composition of the Supreme Court, it could change things. And that's all true, and I agree with all that. The problem is that liberals in courts have rewritten the definition of child rape in Tennessee to the point that child rape can occur without penetration. And let me just keep it really simple and say, you can have child rape in Tennessee with this. Mommy, he touched my boo-boo. And doesn't have to be skin-to-skin contact, meaning there can be clothing on. So you need to understand what the definition of rape is in Tennessee.
Gotcha.
It's one of the most broadest and we'll say least restrictive definitions in the nation.
Well, and then you have the concern about children that are coerced because
Well, hold on.
adults have
Yeah.
issues with each other.
Yeah. So hold on. So first of all, so child rape in Tennessee doesn't have to involve penetration, and could just involve touching, and could be clothed, and doesn't have to have eyewitness testimony, and doesn't have to have physical evidence.
Mm.
So just hear what I said.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hear what I said.
I mean,
what we've done is you could have a zealous prosecutor trying to make a name for themselves,
right.
seek the death penalty where there's no physical evidence, there's no eyewitness account, and you have the defendant saying, "I didn't do that," and you've got the child saying, "Mommy, you touched my boo-boo." Okay? So what I said was, well, wait a minute, let's put some guardrails on that, and let's require physical evidence. Well, they didn't like that because sometimes this information becomes available later. I get that.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes you have a child that's traumatized by abuse or rape, and it's not until some years later in counseling that it's revealed that the stepdad was, and I get that. The second thing was that you had to have physical evidence, and you had to have what's called I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank. We have it defined legally, but you had to have. I can't think of the term we used in the amendment, but it basically means there has to be penetration.
Okay.
Serious bodily injury. That's the way it's worded, and that would imply that there was penetration. So I offered an amendment that would have set kind of those bars so that you can only seek the death penalty if those two conditions are met. Why would I do that? Well, first of all, because I read the definition of rape in Tennessee, and I saw that, how broad it is, and it's broader than like 45 other states or whatever the number was. And second of all, I didn't want us to wind up with a case that would reaffirm Kennedy.
Right.
And that is a real risk when you do something like this. So here's the problem. Here you have the guy who is consistently one of the most conservative people who actually read the stinking bill and said, wait a minute, let's not play checkers here. Let's not score political points. Let's play chess, and let's see how this can work out. And the problem is we've got a definition of rape in Tennessee that's so broad, it's so inclusive, it's such a low standard that an overzealous prosecutor could seek the death penalty on something that could ultimately wind up reaffirming, not overturning.
Yeah. Going to the Supreme Court and just absolutely.
So I couldn't vote against the bill, but I couldn't vote for it. And my amendment just fell flat. We had all these political groups on the far right saying, so you're going to be in favor of a child rapist? And I just said, you know what? Look, I've gotten to a point where I just say, if God wants me to do this, he'll make a way, but I'm not sitting here trying to cast votes just to pander to people for sound bites on a bill that they haven't even read.
I appreciate you so much.
Well, it just the thing about it is it was so easy to fix.
Yeah.
We could have had a bill that could have given the death penalty or life without parole to a child rapist. We could have done it so easily. All we needed to do was fix it. Yeah. But you get into pride of ownership, and someone's like, well, I don't want you to amend my bill. And going back to what I said before, it's not my bill.
Yep.
I can't fix somebody else's bill if they don't want it to be fixed. And so it was late in session. It was last minute. Yeah. Couldn't do a thing about it. So I didn't mean to dwell on that, but we did a whole lot of good stuff. And let me just say, our taxes are low.
Yeah.
And we're as low as any other state. We've got money in our rainy day fund. That's good. We've got about the least amount of debt of any other state in the nation. Our roads are paid for. There's so much to be proud of in Tennessee, and we spend so much time with what's wrong that we forget to look at what's right.
Amen.
And we have the proof is in the pudding. Where are people moving to in America?
Right here.
They're moving to Tennessee.
Yeah.
So we're doing a lot of things right. It is an honor to serve as a state senator.
We appreciate you. And again,
I love doing
what you just unpacked is the reason why I love you so much, is because I know you don't just let somebody tell you what it says. You're studying it, you're digging into it, and you make such a great point whenever you unpack it all.
Well, and in
fully
fairness,
explain
and
it.
in
It's-
fairness to the
it's
people that
crazy.
voted for it, some of them would just say, "Hey, it's a policy difference. We don't agree with Kerry's analysis," and that's fair enough.
Okay.
That's fair enough. But you know what? We read some. Hey, do we all read the Bible and draw the same conclusion?
Oh, no.
No, we don't. So two people can read a bill and draw a different conclusion.
Yeah.
That was the conclusion that I drew, and I talked to legal experts, and
Just it's such a hard subject that you don't even want
it's
to go there.
very hard
I'm
because you don't.
uncomfortable with you
yeah.
just talking about it, but I get what you're saying.
It was one of the
You know,
most gut-wrenching,
Yeah, it has to be.
emotional
Yeah.
things that we heard. So
Good
thank you for
Lord.
having me
Thank
today.
you. Oh, absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Robertson, for being here. And thank you guys for joining us.